This is Sahithi,
And this is Tina.
and this is our climate change presentation for environmental science. All right, so these are just a couple of pictures, and we're going to be talking about global warming today, like glaciers melting, the climate change, and just overall changes in our Earth.
Okay, so global warming, basically we've been living in an interglacial world for the past 12,000 years, and there's two changes, either when it's warming and it's cooling. And right now it's warming, and the climate change is studied by four different things. You look at trapped air bubbles, GHGs or greenhouse gases, solar activity, which has to do with the sun obviously, and collection of other sediments like pollen and soot.
And these air bubbles and other sediments are usually found in icebergs, as you can see on the pictures to your right. The Earth's natural greenhouse effect. So basically, we have this greenhouse effect that we'll go into detail a little bit later, but the solar radiation that comes into our Earth is sometimes reflected off the clouds and the atmosphere, or it stays in the atmosphere. And this supports life on Earth because it retains heat, and if we don't have this natural effect, the Earth would be too cold for life to survive. And,
And there could be another ice age.
Yeah, and there are some greenhouse gases that are human created and that might be excessive and lead to an excessive greenhouse effect. And you can see some of the gases include carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous dioxide, etc.
So this is a little more in detail about how it works. So the gases enter through the ozones into the earth, and some of the radiation is reflected off of whatever the ocean, the ground, whatever is there. And some of it leaves the earth, but some of it doesn't, and just stays and heats up the troposphere.
Yep. Sources of greenhouse gases. These are like the different greenhouse gas, the most common greenhouse gases. Fossil fuel burning leads to carbon dioxide, landfills, permafrost melting, natural gas leaks lead to methane, fertilizers, livestock waste, and nylon production lead to nitrous oxide. Air conditioners, foam, and aerosols lead to CFCs, and fire extinguishers are actually halogens, which are also greenhouse gases. And these are just some of the main ones.
Yeah. And like the most important would probably be the fossil fuel, which obviously is carbon dioxide, which leads to carbon dioxide emissions. And then actually, no, that one's the most important.
Yeah.
Okay. Some human activities that are causing climate change are deforestation, which increases levels of CO2 and NO2, and then increased amount of cattle increases methane, and rice paddies and fertilizers increase NO2, and the burning of fossil fuels increases CO2, and that started mostly during the 1900s.
So we also have other effects caused by the greenhouse gases, and we have other things that cause climate change. One of the biggest things is the seasonal thinning of the poles. And basically, how this works is that CFCs that get to the poles are broken up by UV rays, and they leave chlorine. They just leave chlorine elements. And polar storms or vortexes in this area during the winter make ice crystals for the chlorine to rest on. And so when the chlorine is rested on there, it acts as a catalyst or begins and speeds up the chemical reactions, creates heat. And so this chlorine breaks down thousands of ozone molecules and therefore causes the thinning of the ozone layer. And we call this seasonal thinning.
So what an increase in evaporation leads to is obviously an increase in clouds. And this causes a warming effect, which what happens is cirrus clouds, which are really thin clouds, are created from absorption and releasing heat into the atmosphere. And the other effect is cooling, which basically more sunlight is reflected, and it just creates thick cumulus clouds. An increase in heat leads to an increase in land-based ice melts, which happens on the beach and anywhere where there's water.
Yeah, and some of the effects include beach erosion, flooding in low coastal cities, saltwater intrusion into aquifers, etc. So, our world is basically in a stage of warming right now, and these are just some of the effects of it. We can also take many reductive measures, or reductive measures have been taken in our world to reduce this drastic climate change. Some of the biggest meetings have included the Kyoto Protocol, Global Climate Change Initiative, Framework Convention of Climate Change, Montreal Protocol, and Copenhagen. And you guys can see the details of this underlined or bulleted underneath. And these have not all been successful, but the most recent ones, which use a global effort, have been, such as the Montreal Protocol.
And that one's the most important because it's been the most successful globally.
Yeah. And
This is the quiz, and so you can find the link or however Miss Anderson wants you to take it. Just make sure you take the quiz.
so, yeah, that's it. That's our presentation. Oh, we also have links to a TED Talk and an interactive simulation, and the links are listed above. So if you have time, be sure to go look at them, and they'll give you just a little bit more insight into our topic. We're
There you go.
excited. The end.